So I finally get to test out my solar system against wildfire. This was the whole reason I built this system in the first place, for apocalyptic scenarios where the power might go out because of wildfires. And by the way, you also happen to have a D variant pandemic rampaging around outside. I have a set of refrigerators and freezers in the garage which are fully off-grid, and each is run by its own inverter and its own separate batteries. And there are 3 sets of panels on the roof that independently charge these different batteries and run these different refrigerators and freezers. This was so failure in any one component or subsystem would be abated, and I would not lose all of my refrigeration. There are 8 200-watt panels on the pergola tracker. There are 8 fixed panels on a southward slope roof, and there are 6 150-watt panels on another southward sloped roof that is less efficient because it's partly shaded by an olive tree. Because PG&E is contemplating cutting the power to reduce the odds of wildfires during windy periods like right now, there's a significant chance that the power will go down. They just sent out a notice that they might shut the power Thursday and keep it off until like next week on Wednesday. And when I say windy periods producing wildfires, I mean the kind that PG&E can get sued for, not the kind that are happening all around us and causing smoky air. This poses a problem for anyone who has buffered their food supply with refrigerators and freezers for COVID apocalypse purposes or any other purpose. What I've noticed in previous wildfire seasons, because I've had my solar system up for more than a year now, is that when it's really smoky out, panels don't produce much power and don't charge the batteries up enough to maintain your 24/7 refrigeration. And what this means is hasta la vista, baby, to your food stash. So I've got a game plan. I'm going to go to PG&E wall power on all my refrigerators. Then I'm going to just use the smoke-occluded panels to slowly charge my batteries and just keep them topped off, and only switch the batteries at the exact moment that the PG&E goes down. The hope is that the weakly illuminated panels, even though they don't produce enough light to cancel out and recharge the batteries fully, will partly recharge the batteries, and each following day the state of charge of the batteries will continue to drop, but hopefully not go down to cutout while they were shut down the inverters. If they do drop too far and the inverters cut out, I do have a propane and generators to keep the refrigerators running. Hopefully I won't have to resort to that, and we'll see.
I'm now going to disable my refrigerators and freezers to just fully charge up the batteries. So in case utility power gets cut, I'll have the batteries charged. I'm now going to disconnect my freezers and refrigerators from the batteries and run off utility power. And you hear that? That's the relay turning off from the smart monitor or the smart switch. So when I turn this off, that's going to disable my Spartan automatic transfer switch. So now use the charge, but will not use battery power from the freezers and refrigerators. I also had to reset my 2 kilowatt inverter because it tends to fault when the automatic transfer switch kicks into utilities. So if I don't reset it, then it will, if the batteries recharge and the automatic transfer switch switches back to batteries, it won't turn back on. That's a flaw in my system, it seems to be random. Some of the Renogy inverters can handle getting rapidly switched by one of these Spartans, and some can't, and they'll fault. So I don't think that's not cloud. I think that's smoke in the air. So we'll see how my panels do against smoke. They haven't started tracking yet. Their rest state in that position. I adjusted the range of motion on the left tracker, but I didn't adjust its nighttime rest position, so it rests at this odd angle. Later I'll have to make it rest flat. We will see if my panels can handle the smoky day. It'll be much smokier than this when it gets really bad, but this is just the beginning of fire season. But we'll see. Today is going to be supposedly a bad day for smoke, so we'll see. And you can see my time-lapse camera there. It's just an iPhone connected to a Renogy battery to keep it charged up. A small, like one of these portable power packs. Let me show the power bank as I climb up. So I bring cameras for peripheral vision. Let's see here. It's got a little power bank just to keep it charged up or topped off. Okay, one of my trackers just activated. It's 7:08 a.m. so it just activated a few moments ago. As you can see, the smoke is pretty diffusive, so there's definitely significant smoke in the air. Yeah, but my trackers are indeed tracking or starting to point towards what they think is the brightest part of the sky. The sun isn't really hitting them directly yet. It's too low. The ridge of the roof is still blocking the sun. See that the left one is in equalized mode because I have taken the load off of it. And the right one, this is a lithium-ion battery, is taking in 5 amps from this channel, 13 amps from that channel.
And contrary to popular / publicized / intended opinion, you can completely mix and match and crisscross MPPT controllers and batteries and solar panels arbitrarily with as many solar panel sets feeding as many MPPTs that are connected in parallel with each other, unrelated, and crisscrossing and connecting or even feeding the same batteries in any arbitrary combination you want whatsoever, at least for Renogy MPPT controllers. That seems to work fine, and I have not had any problems. So I literally have 2 lithium-ion batteries and 1 array of lead-acid batteries that are all independently and parallelly fed by 3 different sets of solar panels. If any of those solar panel sets goes down, I will still get roughly 2/3 of the charge on all 3 of my batteries. The only single point failures are the individual inverters that feed the individual refrigerators. Only if an inverter fails, that specific refrigerator loses power. Otherwise, any battery, any solar panel set, any MPPT controller that fails doesn't matter. It's all fully functional and efficient. I don't see any loss of efficiency of any kind, and I don't have any problems at all. Oh, and by the way, this is just some random parrot that showed up the other day before the smoke showed up.
Here we have another set of, 2 different sets of panels, the pergola tracker and dining roof. The 2 leftmost ones are going to lead-acid batteries, and the one on the right is going to a lithium-ion battery. The air is still relatively clean inside the garage. Well, the panels are tracking, and the sun is out there, just not very, it's very diffuse, but we are still collecting some sunlight, significant amounts. You can see that this light is somewhat diffuse, as you can see from the lack of sharp or very bright light, although I think the sun is kind of going through phases of more and less blockage. there's a mixture of clouds and smoke. So when the clouds pass, the smoke is more diffuse. But when the clouds pass, then there's a little bit more brightness. Like right now, the brightness is picked up a little bit. And we are still time-lapsing it, so we'll see the time-lapse later.
And that clicking sound, by the way, was not fully normal. That is probably caused by the tracker being a little bit confused by the combination of very wispy cloud cover and the smokiness.
I'm getting a good charge still with the smoke-filled sky. I'm still getting some recharge effect from the various panels, but it's kind of slowed down. The batteries are topping off. This one is fully topped off, so it's ready. These batteries are topped off too, mostly. The air quality has been degrading significantly. It's now 2 p.m., so it's still good, fairly good air, but it was 0 in the morning. Well, there's not much to track. The sun is visible, actually. The sun is actually quite visible, and the smoke is definitely visible, but it's not obscuring everything. It is, you can see the smoke is kind of clouding fogging up the sky and the trees, but you can still see the sun, and the panels are still tracking just fine. My time-lapse setup is still functional. Guess you will see that later. This is my end of the day state. Basically, it's 7 p.m. The smoke is still generating ambient light outside that kind of charges the panels a little bit. And I'm still collecting a little bit of current, or actually this one's kind of draining, but you can see that the kitchen refrigerator was still collecting current. The sky is lit up even though the sun might be kind of low, and that's because the sky is so smoky that the light is just kind of ambient spread. And these are my garage refrigerators in their current state, or the batteries are all charged up. So now the batteries are fully charged, so if the power goes out I can flip them onto battery. And the air quality has been slightly improving. Often that happens at overnight. It kind of chills down a bit, and then during the day it gets worse again. I think my panels have gone into a kind of nighttime rest mode already. And my time lapse appears to still be running. So we'll see what that looks like.
So my batteries are all fully topped off at the end of day 1, and we shall see what happens tomorrow. It'll probably be worse tomorrow.